Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I'm Richard Carlton, creator of fmtraining.tv, where every day at 1 o'clock Pacific time, we are doing FileMaker training on the world's most awesome platform. So today is interesting because we have a lot of hot news. We are here at Claris headquarters, which is always exciting. If you want to support the channel, once again, this is totally free. The content here is free. Most of all our files are free, but if you want to support the channel, purchase one of the training bundles. We greatly appreciate it. It really helps us out quite a bit. It keeps the lights on, and it frankly allows me to pay Margaret and all the other people that help with the live streams, because it's a large team. May not only seem like it's just Richard and Margaret, or intermittently Nick will be here. So we have to fund all that. Plus there's video editors and things like that. So we greatly appreciate that. So, okay, we're now going to start the kind of this open kind of Q&A. We have some questions are but if it's a relevant question, Margaret, this is what, okay, if you're a professional FileMaker person or you work at Claris, you should be prepared to say, I don't know the answer, right? That's a possible answer here that I might have is I don't know, okay? But after 30 some odd years, I pretty good grasp of most things. And if I don't know it, there's a reason for that. So saving as a PDF, let's cover that real quick. This is a common thing that comes up every day, almost, it seems like. I'm going to leave this open over here just in case I want that. I'm going to go over here to Starting Point Lite, and every copy of Starting Point. Oh, by the way, the new version of Starting Point 2024 is coming out with bug fixes and things like that. And so we're very excited about that release. So if you go in here, you go to Invoices, I will simply tell you that there is a menu button right here. And a lot of times in Big Valley, I went to them and you have to think about usability and things like that. I'm going to pop this open here. So Big Valley Aviation came from, obviously, if you see that, and then you see this over here, you're like, I can see the similarities there. I can't believe it shows similar. So obviously one came from the other. When I'm over here working on a work order system or something like this or whatnot, what happens is that here's a test record. At the top up here, I built an option so they could, actually this one under the printer looking one, they could preview it, okay? Now keep in mind when you print, you're just gonna print the layout. If you email it, in order to email a report or something, you're gonna create as a PDF, attach the PDF to email, send out. So this one's actually a complicated version of the preview. The preview right here, if you just press it, pops it up on screen. It's pretty straightforward and simple, okay? So in your copy of Starting Point already, if you go to Invoices, you can come over here. You can say print or email a copy. So you could take the email script and hack it if you wanted to. So we'll go to Script Debugger here real quick. I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say send by email. We're going to watch the Script Debugger. So everyone knows how to turn on the Script Debugger. You go to Tools, Script Debugger. If you don't see Tools up here at the top, you need to enable that. You go to File, Correction. Well, on Windows, it's under Edit, down at Preferences or something under Edit. On the Mac, it's Settings right here. I can't do that with this running. So let me go back here. FileMaker, Settings. Then you go to, right here, Advanced Tools. So you turn this on. Mine's already on. If it's off, you turn it on. Then you have to quit FileMaker and reopen it. You have to quit it and reopen it for it to take effect, okay? And then you get this extra tools menu up here and some other nice things. So I'm going to hit the button over here again, and then we'll step through it, send by email. So I start stepping. So it's going to run script 1200, the number 1200, which is, if I was in here debugging and you can't see me waving my hands, but I would write 1200 down on a little Post-it note or something so I could track the call stack. The call stack's down here. This is the call stack of what's calling a button, then call 1200. And then if 1200 calls something, you'll see it in the call stack. But I write it down. That way I can always keep track of it when this window goes away. So I start stepping down. So there's the step button, down, down, down. Says, are you using a web publishing engine? No. In fact, we have a live stream come up where we'll talk about this a little bit. And then we come down, we're going to commit freeze window, try to keep it from flashing. Once again, the freeze window doesn't do anything with the script debugger on, because by default, the windows completely refresh after every script step, right? So checks to see if the email's empty. If it's empty, then the whole thing is not going to work anyway, so it doesn't bother. That's good. So we do some validation testing in here. Then we set a variable, set another variable. So what is the destination? And then we say, what kind of invoice do we want to send? And starting point, there's like 3 different designs of invoices from basic to modern to minimalist, whatever. Choose one, steal one, throw them all away, roll your own, whatever you want to do. So I'm going to step down. I think it's set for basic right now. So it's going to navigate to layout 809. So we're on grid L809. I would write that down too. I tend to write those down on a piece of paper. Okay. Then over here, you can see it refresh. Now it's going to say else if, not a problem. So then it comes down here to the essential script components. These are the parts that are really special. We're going to set a variable with the file name, okay, right here. So it'll be invoice underscore. And then I think the ID of the invoice, right? ID of and that was set right here. So the primary key was set into this field called ID. That'll get set into here. Path names have to be set in variables. You cannot set a path to a global field. That used to be a certification test question, okay, back in the day.
Wait, why?
Because
you can't? Is
not a FileMaker decide that was the way that.
Okay, I wasn't sure if there's like a specific obvious reason for it or cool.
I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but if they, because here's the deal. Well, if I go under here under import records or import or export, or save as PDF, which is save records as a PDF right here. It's going to jump over here. When you script it, you can say the path name and you can specify the path. And the path could be hard coded like C//Richard/ whatever, and it's hard coded. Or you can tell FileMaker dynamically create the path for me, right? So this right here, the temporary path, we set that into a variable because then we set that into this dialog. In fact, what we'll do is because basically this is the end of it. The script is essentially, this is the meaty part of it. The rest of this was one lipstick. I mean, it's operational lipstick. It's important, but the nuts and bolts of building a PDF is essentially file name, path name with the file name on the front, run a record to save as PDF. So let's just jump over here in the scripts real quick. I'm going to tell this to stop. If I come back over here, come down here, I go save as a copy. I hit the dialog right here, specify output file. So here is where it says to go. This is where you could do C/Richard/ blah, 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 / super beavers dot invoice.pdf. Okay. You could hard code it that way if you wanted to. These are the samples down here. But down here it says, oh, you can stick a variable in here, which is the way to dynamically program it. So if I go back and hit that, so it does this if it has one. If it doesn't have that, then it tries to do this. And I don't know that this ever really pops up. These would strange. These would activate if this one doesn't work. But this one's right here, so why wouldn't it work? I don't know. So anyway, but that's why there's alternate ones in here. So if the first here it says right here, specify a 1 file path per line. FileMaker use the first file it locates as the target file. So if the path is valid and it's not smoke and mirrors, it'll use the first one it gets to. Does that make sense? But you just set it right here. So what could cause this not to work? Even if file name was totally blank, you'd still have a path, but then you would have a name. But the file name comes from that right there because the file name. Yeah. So whatever. So
we have a question related to this real fast.
Yeah, go ahead. Next.
If you have paths for Windows and Mac, will it auto decide depending on the platform that is running the script?
Yes. So understand on paths real quick. So there's certain, the paths will auto adjust themselves in flight if you use the get functions. So that's awesome, right? Get documents, get temp. Get documents and get temp are the 2 high traffic locations. I tend to use on my computer's desktop all the time because I'm an organized person, so I don't have that much junk on my desk. Some of you are like, hey, he's the most trashy person I've ever met. Okay. Just to be clear, most of the time I have a couple icons. In fact, we've already been busy today. There'll be about that many I'll have and a couple at the bottom and 1 or 2 at the top. That's it. There's other people like certain wives that I might be married to. And every possible location on the desktop has been filled by something. And then once it runs out of room, it starts just piling them up on top of the hard drive. So they're all piled up like that. And you're like, what the hell happened up here? And you're like, ah, damn. So if you're that person, you want to save them to the temporary path. But I like to like see it. So then if I need to grab it and like do something with it because I'm a developer, I like to see that. Otherwise, the temporary path is buried way down in some obscure directory somewhere. And the temporary path is temporary because their operating system will periodically purge it or take out the trash, right? It's like sticking in the trash can. You empty the trash once a week or something. Eventually, it's going to be out of here. So, um, so that's what the way that works right there. So there is no spot in here that doesn't say put a global field in here or a field in here, right? If you want to use a field, you stick it in a variable, stick the variable in there, you're set. Okay, makes sense. So then, so this saves a PDF. And then you can say specify options. It's going to save the current record. There's some other settings you can do with the PDF and blah, 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 blah. Options, security, initial view. Tells you this is some basic PDF kind of stuff that goes on, right? So save as a PDF, right? Makes sense. A lot of times we do the exact same thing when we're dumping a container out of the system. So you have a container, you hit the open button. It's going to run the same code there, and then right here it's going to say export as, and you're going to identify, target the container, and then you're going to give it the name and the path. And then there's an extra checkbox says open have the operating system open it for me is what the checkbox essentially is. So those are super high traffic. I would consider these intermediate things because dealing with paths and variables cohesively I would consider that an intermediate skill set. Keep in mind that there's at the pro level, at the FileMaker Pro level, if I come over here and I say help with FileMaker Pro and I bring this up and then I say path, that'd be interesting. Paths and server-side scripts. Okay, creating file paths, get folder path, cache. So there's the cache path. I've never used that before. That's going to be probably if you want to go and nuke the path, nuke the cache or something. Desktop path. This is the one I use all the time when I want to save to my desktop. But for most of your customers, especially the ones that may be a little twitchy, you want to save it to temp so they don't see it. It's there, but they don't see it. There's also the documents path. The two high traffic paths that always work on locally. They work on Go. They also work on server. Get temporary path and get documents path. So there's this one right here. These two are like the go-to super duper ones. This one right here takes you to the directory of FileMaker, not support on server. This takes you to returns a path of a current of the currently active file. So yeah, so it's going to tell you where the currently active FMP12 file is. If it's running on a server, it'll give you the server name and that right there. So desktop path, definitely not support on the server. So understand about server is that it's sandbox. Sandbox is this idea that the server lives, like if you have I don't know how many of you have ever had kids, but when you're a kid, you might have played in the sandbox or in the dirt or something like that. And at schools, they put a big kind of a wooden frame around, like a 12-foot frame or something. They pour about 5,000 pounds of sand in this thing, and they turn the kids loose in there, and the kids just dive in head first. A lot of fun. Actually, I enjoyed it. And so, but what they do is the sandboxing is that idea is the sandbox. They put FileMaker in there. So if you had your own sandbox and you couldn't play with your friends, you're such a mean antisocial person. Every kid has their own sandbox. You can't talk to Johnny. Well, the problem is that Johnny happens to be a malware application. And Johnny's going to try to get into your FileMaker. So the problem is if FileMaker's in its own sandbox and it can't talk to Johnny in his or her sandbox, then that's a security wall that's in there. So if you save stuff to the desktop or save stuff to the FileMaker path, if FileMaker server can save it there, other apps can save it there too. Remember, these paths are not something that Claris invented. The operating system supports it already, right? And so with the operating system, you can only go to the temp path, which is your FileMaker specific temp path, or your documents path, which is your FileMaker specific documents path, right? Makes sense? And so, because I did the DevCon presentation on this years ago, and FileMaker Go is the same way. Go and server are sandbox, which means that part of the security is that Johnny can't talk to Sally, can't talk to Mohammed. The little kids are all in their separate sandboxes, and they can't see each other. They can't talk to each other. They don't even know that each other exists. Really super antisocial, but it's a big security thing. So on Pro, On the desktop computers, Mac and Windows, things aren't quite so sandboxed because historically we've had apps that talk to each other. And if Claris and Apple or Microsoft actually sandbox the shit out of everything, then the user base would lose their minds. They've gone through doing other things with security. That's why these things are supported at the Windows and Mac desktop or user level, but not really on the server. Make sense?
Yep, that does.
A deep dive on paths, but there you go. It's
Someone
all
just
relevant.
mentioning that get cache file path is new, but isn't the cache interacting at the cache
Cache
all
is
kind
stuff
of a
that
new
we don't
thing?
deal with anyway. The only thing we do with cache is that we throw it away if we think it's blown up. If the cache is blown, we go over here, like something's not like a corrupted image and other people don't see the problem. So quit FileMaker, then you come over here to settings and you say delete the cache. And it deletes all those files out for you. But if you're like Hansa and you're like trying to measure the size of the cache, I've got a 10 gigabyte file, but I got a gigabyte of cache, or how much cache could be in there. We're going to measure that. That would allow you to probably dig in there and measure it or something. On the client, not on the server. There's cache on the server. You don't have a get function that'll get to it. Only Claris doesn't expose it to you. I don't think. Actually, that's a good point. Does get cache work on server? I would guess not. How do we tell what commands are supported where, Margaret? How do we do that without checking documentation?
If you open script workspace, isn't there like a little option to like say what you're scripting for?
Oh, so we come over here and we say cache. Oh, cache. I got to spell it reverse. Flush. No, there's flush disk cache to disk. So you come down here and you say, when this script is run by one of these things, is it supported? So Macintosh, once again, we're talking about Pro on Mac or Pro, FileMaker server, on-prem server, or their FileMaker cloud server, iOS, which is Go, and this is FileMaker Data API, which has a script thing, which I'm starting to play with and connect, but it's not ready yet, so I'm not going to show it to you folks. And then FileMaker WebDirect. So when server runs it, this is PSOS and Sassy. So we go here. Ooh, flash cache to disk is not, it's grayed out. It's not functional. So you could put it in here. Like you could put it in here. It's in here. But if you say which lines of code are going to work, okay, well, on server, on Mac, those work.
Oh, it shows you in the script workspace as well. That's cool. Like on the actual script.
Script workspace. Oh yeah, it shows you over here too. So then if you go to the I don't know why the get, it was a get.
It's a get function. Oh, because this is the script workspace.
Oh,
we need to actually open the calculation engine. Yeah.
I don't.
That always messes me up. Well, if you go to Data Viewer, can't you open up like a basic?
Well, actually, in a case like this, then I would go just to help and get it. Sometimes I mix up because of get functions. I mix up functions and script setups. Whack and act like functions, right? So yeah, my bad.
There you go.
So if you go right here, you scroll down, it'll tell you whether. Oh, okay. So FileMaker WebDirect. Remember, FileMaker WebDirect is basically PSOS or Sassy, not supported. Not supporting PSOS Sassy. Not supported if the server runs it. So it's supported on
Pro and Go.
Pro and Go. Yeah, Pro and Go.
Well, it's telling you what it'll return, right, or what you can expect.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is for like a base elements thing, or like David Ramsey was a really great speaker from Proof Guys about his FM perception app. He would be using stuff like this. So for us, it's like I can't think of a practical app for us at our level to do that.